morning. Welcome to the Tri-Faith Initiative series on our founding stories. So glad that all of you were able to join us today as we hear a decade or more worth of stories around the establishment of the mosque of AMI, the American Muslim Institute, and their path to join the Tri-Faith Initiative. I will invite each of our speakers today to tell us a little bit about how they first heard about Tri-Faith as a means of introduction. And Imam Jamal, if we could start with you, if you could tell us, what is your earliest memory of hearing about the Tri-Faith Initiative? I think we need to unmute you.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. There was a member right now here in this community. He has moved from Augusta to Omaha, a job kind of movement. And in a few months, he came to hear about the Tri-Faith and the group working with the Tri-Faith. And it was so interesting for him that he started chatting with me when I was in Augusta about this project. At the time, I was really in a situation that I would be looking and trying to move forward with my interfaith kind of experience. So we chatted a lot and we explored the possibilities of being one of the candidates to the AMI, and this is how it started. You know, we start the communication, the conversation, then getting involved with the AMI board, and here I am, 3 years plus, you know, in Omaha.
Beautiful. Karim, could you tell us a bit about how you first heard about the Tri-Faith Initiative?
Unmute, Karim.
How about now, guys?
Yep.
Sorry, I forgot that I'm calling from a phone, so I have double mute. So I think that's been my story for the last 6 months since this COVID thing started. So first, I want to thank Wendy and her staff and the leadership of the old Tri-Faith for making this happen. I think this is very important work, and you know, telling the story is a great part of what we do. So Wendy, to answer your question, I think, you know, back in 2006, a group of us, you know, we were engaged in, you know, trying to kind of keep moving our, you know, Islamic, Muslim, you know, congregation, presence, story, all the above forward, right? And there was a group of us that were having a conversation with the leadership of the temple, the Jewish partner of the Tri-Faith. And, you know, the story started there. And I think my involvement was really, you know, kind of, in a way, it was, you know, just trying to be part of this. We did not really have, I think, beyond the memorandum of understanding, we did not have anything concrete, but, you know, things moved fairly quick, and we formed the AMI, which had another name prior to that, or still, it's actually part of our legal identity. And we just kept moving things around, and here we are, you know, 14 or 15 years later, having this conversation with 4 beautiful buildings and on a part of Omaha that it's very unique. So,
thank you. Nuzhat, can you tell us your first memory about hearing about the Tri-Faith Initiative?
I can, and thank you for having us on. It's fun to tell our story. I always enjoy hearing others' stories, and I'm grateful that there are people that want to hear ours as well. So I had the good fortune many years ago to work with Karim in a professional engagement. And I don't remember the event that happened in the news, whatever it was. I remember being just disappointed that the Muslims in that situation, hadn't, I think, presented what I felt was the real face of Islam. And I remember talking to Karim about it and just shaking my head and saying, as Muslims, we don't have like a central church, like a pope and a Vatican. And so we don't necessarily have one source that speaks for us. And I was telling Karim, I just wish there was something we could do to like present, who we are and make sure that we had like open communication with people and people knew us. And it wasn't this hidden weird thing where everyone made up stories about who we were as Muslims. And Karim said, well, have I got a deal for you? So he told me about the Tri-Faith Initiative and that it was being formed, in this partnership between Jewish people in Omaha, Christian people in Omaha, and Muslims here, and that we collectively could, would be able to live out our values. It was so exciting. I still remember that day. And Karim, I'm sorry that I took you away from your work, but I think we ended up chatting for an hour or two that day.
Nice. So this is an important moment for you all to know. Dr. Syed Muhyiddin is a very, very important part of this story and the origin of the what was called AIISC because it was a mouthful. We couldn't say all the letters. Early, we used letters instead of, let's see, it was the American
Institute of Islamic Studies and Culture.
The American Institution of Islamic Studies and Culture. And Dr. Muhyiddin was the original president of that organization. Can you tell us about that name? How did you select that name? And how did it change? And perhaps a little bit, if we could pay some tribute to Dr. Muhyiddin in his part in the story. We'll have to bring him on another time. He's not available on Thursdays at noon ever. So that's why he's not joining us today. But Nuzhat, could you start with your recollections about the name and what you hoped that it would stand for or become?
I don't recollect that it was a collaborative decision. I think Dr. Muhyiddin sort of decided. He just said, this is it. But it was actually very useful to us, I think, in our early days, because each of those words helped us to shape who we are. So, for example, the first word is American, and we had a distinct part of our vision that was that we wanted to create a place that had American characteristics. So it wasn't, let's say, an Egyptian mosque where people from Egypt would take their ways of worshiping and interacting and sort of replicate them here. Likewise, it wasn't an Indonesian, traditions, but it was in fact a melting pot of Muslims from all over the world. And so we would put forward, what we felt was an American identity for Muslims. So I think each of those words was carefully selected. One of the words that resonated with me a lot was that it included the word culture and included the word studies. And Dr. Muhyiddin in particular has been passionate about this part of our vision, which we have not yet been able to realize. But when he included the word studies, he meant, scholars publishing research papers and kind of a very academic approach, which I think was very useful as a broad vision, because I feel like a lot of times, again, as part of kind of telling the American Muslim story, we certainly have anecdotes and we have, good-hearted people in the community, but I think research is important and scholarship is important in having you know, the academic rigor to whatever theories or ideas you put forth is important as well. And I'll let the others speak to.
Karim, can you build on that and tell us your memories about the initial name and then the transition to AMI?
Yeah, first, I mean, thank you, Wendy, for mentioning Dr. Muhyiddin. I think Dr. Muhyiddin, I would say this, right? Without him, I think, I don't know if, I mean, he's one of the kind. I think the work he did, the commitment, the disciplined approach, all the things he did to get us to where we are today has been instrumental and continue to be instrumental in this whole thing. But the name, I think, going back to the name, I think it was a focus, right? So when we started this, if you go back, like, you know, when you think about September, July of 2006, we literally had, you know, no facility. We did not have a whole lot of money. All we had was the idea that we are going to go after our story. We're going to tell our story. We're going to, engage with people to tell them about who we are, our tradition, our culture. So our focus was really more, if you look at the name, yes, I mean, Nuzhat is absolutely right. That the first part, the American Institute. So it was about culture, about disseminating the knowledge that we felt it's necessary for the other, right? Including Muslim, to know about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, and how to live our mission and the core value that we identified as a core for us. So that was, the first, I think, 5 to 10 years. But as we continue to evolve, and now our mission is a little bit bigger, and we're still focused on education, right? And it's critical, it's important, and that's not just for the non-Muslim, but including the Muslim and including ourselves as well. It became more of service, right? We're trying to serve the Ummah community and non-Ummah community by doing what we do. The mission did not change; it just evolved. So the name came first. It was a mouthful, right? We're trying to use the abbreviation. We try to do all these things. It's still kind of so the evolution of the organization, the evolution of kind of our mission, I think made us think about how to come up with a name that can be much more aligned with that evolution of our mission, by having a center, by having, now that this is really a physical presence, and it's not just, one of the board members or the volunteers going to a Rotary Club and speaking about Muslim in Omaha or Islam in general. So I will say the name is a natural evolution of the organization, as I think any other, organization. So that's I believe, hopefully reflects the change of the name.
Thank you. So both the formation of AMI and the formation of the Tri-Faith Initiative, happened simultaneously. And Imam Jamal will come to you in a moment, but if we could start with Nuzhat and Karim in terms of, you've been on this journey since the very, very early stages. So many times when I have conversations with people about a nonprofit or a nonprofit board, people complain about their boards. That is so not the case for the Tri-Faith Initiative, and I believe our partner congregation boards as well. We have so many people with such beautiful talents and have given so much time to make sure that we've gotten on this path. If you could speak to the unique role that you feel you played, what talent have you offered to both the mosque and to the Tri-Faith Initiative in its formation? Nuzhat, could we start with you?
That's a big question. I certainly agree that I think the AMI board has had incredible talents. We've had probably not a large number of board members over the years. If I think of former board members, for example, I just see, I think 2 or 3 names just come to mind. One of whom is Dr. Nasser Al-Sharif, who's a professor at Creighton University in the field of pharmacy. He certainly has many other qualifications other than that, but I'll kind of hold him up as an example where he was part of our organization especially in the early years until he resigned from being a board member, but he was so passionate always about the mission and about, being authentic to himself, and as well as, wanting to build that collaboration. I think there's something that so it may appear to the onlooker that this is easy, it's all peace and love. And it is peace and love, but it's not easy, because then there sometimes are kind of perhaps real hesitations, or real skepticism, or real questions that each one of us may have about each other's, whether it's culture or religion and so on. And I think it's the passion of all of our board members, whether from the AMI or from Temple Israel, or our previous Christian partner, the Episcopal Diocese, and then Countryside now. I think that passion to pursue both the hard questions, but then also the fun and the kind of connecting on a human level. I think it's that combination that's been part of our success. Just speaking for myself, it's always hard to see ourselves and what contribution, individually we may have made. I would say perhaps my greatest contribution is persistence, in that I've been part of the organization for 11 or 12 years. And so kind of when we had nothing, no land, no buildings, no money, no donors, we just had a dream. We met in random church basements, rambling, meetings, sort of pontificating about what we should or should, but kind of through all of that, to kind of hold on to the faith and hold on to the dream, and to just be part of it. And there were certainly some years where I probably gave it an enormous amount of my time, and then other times when my life required me to pull back. But I think through it all, just being there and being part of it with everyone, helping to hopefully, promote the dialogue between our faiths in some personal ways. For a long time, I have been part of the programming committee. One of the things that we had done there is we built a program called Neighbor to Neighbor, where we wanted to encourage kind of personal, intimate dialogue. And so helping to form groups of people within the community that would have someone from each of the representative faiths. We had a lot of partners in that, so I don't want to act like I necessarily don't take all the credit for that. Big Gutman and Associates helped us enormously. Lisa Winton in organizing and all of that. But I think just being persistent through the highs and the lows, and working especially through our programming to build something that was real. So again, make sure that we did the fun stuff, but then also make sure we created room for the quote unquote the hard stuff.
Thank you. Karim, could you speak to the same question?
Yeah, I think, Wendy, and I'll say this. I think, and we talked about this, I think, and throughout the years, that I think we've been lucky, and lucky in so many ways, because I believe we had the best, founding board members, that they were living their mission. They were living the core values of why we even started this, right? I mean, I think it was beyond just being part of a board or nonprofit and, all the kind of the typical thing. I think we had a very great partners. I think Nuzhat mentioned a few of them. I think we've been lucky to work with them and kind of help us through this journey. I think the other thing that I believe worked for us was, I think we treated this as a startup, and we really, the board members did a lot of things. We're not just, once every, month or 2 months when you had the board member and you show up on a Tuesday from 6 to 9. Everybody did what they have to do to make this move. And I mean, I think it will be unfair to mention, a few names because I'm sure I'll forget, most of them. But I think the people that, kind of led and did what they had to do to make this happen, I think I equate that to how people do a startups, right? Technology or otherwise, right? So I think there's a lot of things that contributed to how we, this is both on the Tri-Faith and the AMI. And the other thing I think, and I think everybody on this call or this Zoom, probably understands, and this is when you're in a kind of crawling as an organization, and I think we're still in the early age, specifically from the AMI, board members has to do a lot more, right? And I think this goes for every board member on the AMI that, sometimes you have to sit in a meeting and think strategically and big, picture, and sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to make the operation work. So I think this duality that you have to live as a board member is critical for the success of an organization like, the AMI, and I think we've been lucky enough to have all board members kind of fit that criteria. And that's, I believe, what contributed to us being in this. And we need to continue, right? I don't want to, there is no mission accomplished in this world, right? There's always a journey to be continued, and having the right leadership. I think the biggest challenge for us, I think for Nuzhat, myself, especially on the board member, is how to transition to the next generation, right? So we have this founder biases, right? We know the organization, we know where everything is happening. And I think for us now, as the organization to continue to evolve, is how to find that next generation that will take us forward.
Thank you. Imam Jamal, you clearly have had an enormous role in the formation of both the Tri-Faith Initiative and AMI. Even joining us after a decade of work had already been groundwork laid, because you came for the opening of the AMI building and have been the spiritual leader of the congregation. So can you speak to how you see that role as you walked into it, and how it has evolved over the years that you've been here?
We know that AMI did not move from old facility to new facility, which means there were only few families that been joining or participating in some of the activities of the Tri-Faith. So having AMI been opened in 2017, you don't expect people just to come to the mosque and join with all what the plus and minuses that's been going on around the Tri-Faith. And literally just as the pushback that happened for the other two congregations, or partner congregations, happened to the Muslim community. There are lots of suspicious issues about a Muslim community being close or in close proximity and in friendship with the non-Muslim community, Christians and Jews. So that I came to that situation where I needed to really put my efforts, or the efforts of the board, to start inviting and working on establishing a community. So I remember in the first, second, third, maybe the first 4 Friday services, we counted no more than probably 15 to 20 people on the maximum level. And slowly, right now, after 3 years, we are numbering around maybe 140, with all the obstacles for many of the Muslim members to leave their work to come to the service on Friday at 1:30. So that is establishing stable kind of activities, stable kinds of services, trying to reach out to certain families, certain members who have influence on the surrounding, in order to clear the situation and clear the information about Tri-Faith. As some still believe that what we are doing is a kind of compromising our faith principles and conspiracy theory running on just like any other place of worship. It's not just for the Muslim community. So these were kind of a continuous kind of concern for me and the community that we are still working on. Being a bridge builder since I came to United States, 95, and that was my mission with the interfaith activities. Being a bridge builder, that helped me a lot in reaching out to my Muslim community, at the same time being the bridge to the non-Muslim community. Especially that my expertise in particular for my thesis and the project in the Doctor of Ministry degree, it was bridge builder or bridge building between Islam and Christianity. So that helped me a lot also to reach out to both communities. So I speak and interact with my partners in the temple and the church as comfortable as I interact with my Muslim communities. So we are working on this one. That is I see that is my one of my goal with my community, and representing AMI on the spiritual level and religious level, really to present the best picture that can be countering what the media is broadcasting on the outside. So it's a rule for inside the community, a rule for the tri-faith, and I'm so honored and glad to be partner with my clergy group, that we have formed such a coherent group working together, because I believe strongly that our relationship as a clergy will be reflected on our relationship as a congregation. So within those 3 years, I think I have achieved some, from my perspective, some good achievements with the Christian community, our partner, our neighbor, and the Jewish community, and to some extent with the Muslim community. And the work is still going on that side.
Thank you. I'll let you all decide who would like to answer this question, but could you tell us a bit about the congregation in general? Who attends, how many families, countries of origin, cultural differences, kind of just a broad swoop of, and do you have membership? How does that work?
Should I start? All right. We have approximate, we don't have a proper count for the Muslim community, but we are estimating based on some kind of events and experiences, 4,500 to 5,000 Muslim members in counting. We have 6 mosques, vary between Islamic centers, big Islamic centers like ours, or just a place of worship, a place of doing the prayer, a small sanctuary. Some of those centers are more of a cultural oriented kind of mosque, meaning mosque being selected or built close to the Somali community. They have 2 mosques close to them. A mosque that is built close to the Afghani community, that is in Millard. And I'm not saying 100%, but mostly occupied. ICO, the oldest center in Omaha, Islamic Center of Omaha, mostly Indo-Pakistani kind of community. AMI is diverse enough. I don't know about the others, but I stopped counting at 32 different nationalities in my community. With the 140 people coming for Friday, around 140 people up and down, I have almost 32 kind of different nationalities, Muslim coming from Africa, Asia, Europe, and native here, local from United States. We can claim we are maybe the newest and probably the largest, and we have been open and inviting the other communities and the other members of community to come and join. The uniqueness of the Islamic centers is that every Islamic center is run individually. We don't have any affiliation or any big authority priority that really move things. So everyone is run individually, depending on the board that's been elected, and that is the diverse kind of diversity I can talk about AMI.
Wendy, I will add a few things. I mean, for the audience here, in Islamic tradition in general, right, in Islamic mosque probably more specifically, there is no probably membership as probably there is in a church or other synagogues. There is, we're open. We're a center that is open. We offer services and things like that. So from a membership, there is no specific, like, no family will identify. And this is, because I think we are most Muslim in the U.S., I would say, I don't know what's the percentage, but our first generation. So they came from, country like mine, from Tunisia or Syria or Pakistan. So mosques are open. You just belong to any mosque around your neighborhood, around your house, around your work. So from that perspective, membership is not the same. That doesn't mean that we have to work and, because there is some financial implication, you need to find like your core. So we're working on that to, build some type of identity, right? We don't have like cards that I belong to AMI. I don't think we will never have that, but we're trying to get to a place where we will have people identify specifically with an Islamic center because of, mission, core values, things that we're trying to do. So that's one thing that it's nuanced between probably the Islamic tradition in general and probably other faith groups. The other thing is, our membership continues to evolve. From that perspective, our membership continues to evolve. I think we have a lot of youth that really like what we're trying to do. They identify with the mission, the values we're trying to live up to. So, and not youth, I mean, I don't want to exclude anybody, but a lot of people are trying and come to understand and appreciate the value of the work we're doing. And I recently talked to somebody, this is about 3-4 weeks ago. Somebody gave me a call and was trying to take a job here in Omaha, moving from a very good job from Mayo Clinic, and was debating. But the moment he asked about, is there an Islamic center? And the recruiter pointed that there is one new one on 132nd and Pacific. So they drove him to this location, and this person saw the AMI, saw the bridge, kind of visualized this very quick, kind of Googled or whatever. And I'm not joking. He at that moment he called his wife and he said, "I think I found the place where we want to spend the rest of our lives." Right. So this is a win for Omaha first, right? Because this is a good thing for us as an Omaha. And this is part of, I think, I really appreciate the work we do from two angles, right? We're really adding economic value to Omaha, and I hope people will, maybe in 10 years will hopefully in that think when you stop at the touristic entrance of Omaha coming from Iowa or other cities, you will see the Tri-Faith as a place and a destination that you may visit. So I think, I don't know how to tie back this to the membership, but somehow I did. The story that I want to tell here is our membership continues to evolve. Our understanding of our membership continues to evolve. And, the more work we do, things like this, is going to help us continue to grow our reach and be more impactful.
Thank you. Nuzhat, do you have anything to add to that?
I think they covered it. Thank you.
All right. We'll stay with you then for the next question. You were very engaged, as you mentioned, in Tri-Faith programming early, and I have lots of memories of you reporting about your work, specifically with Rabbi Azrael and Reverend Ernesto Medina. Sorry, I was losing the word. And I just wondered if you could tell me about, you spoke about neighbor to neighbor and looking for these intimate dialogues. It feels to me that you had the most beautiful window into those intimate dialogues through this vehicle of planning programming. Can you tell us about some of those, that impact on you and some of the early memories of stories that you have about that experience?
I would love to. I want to, that whole experience with both Rabbi Azrael and Ernesto are some of my just favorite experiences through Tri-Faith. So when we first were talking about getting together, you know, they suggested like a 10 a.m. meeting or a breakfast meeting. And I said, wait a minute, I work. I have a regular job that requires me to, you know, be there from 8 to 5. So I can only offer up the lunch hour. And they were both so accommodating and said, not only would they be happy to meet at lunch, but they would meet at whatever location was most convenient to me. So we picked a place. At the time I worked near Rockbrook, and the restaurant has since closed, but it was a fantastic place for us. And so that's where we would meet, and we decided to meet on a monthly basis. And I don't remember which program in particular we were planning, but whatever it was, once we got done penciling out the outline of it and how it would work and so on, the kind of that professional side of me from a business standpoint came through, and I said, all right, and then now we need to figure out what our success criteria are. And they both looked at me like, because it's a buzzword perhaps in the business world, but not in the clergy world, success criteria. And so I said, well, like, what are we going to measure? So what are the metrics that we're going to collect? And that's how we'll know that we had a good program and so on. And they both just shook their head and, you know, pshaw, you know, we'll be fine. And then Rabbi said, well, no, we're successful if people hug each other at the end. That's how we'll know that we did a good job. And if nobody hugs each other, we didn't do a good job. And so it was such a great foil to kind of my approach. But that was something that I absolutely loved. Like, I grew as a person through those experiences, let alone like what we were able to contribute to the Tri-Faith Initiative, because Rabbi and Ernesto just brought their, you know, again, just their authentic selves. And frankly, I think by interacting with them, I learned courage in a way that I probably wasn't exercising. My own life and my own life story has required me many times to twist myself into a pretzel to get through some awkward or unique situations. And so I'm good at that. I'm good at being able to kind of figure out how to get through tough stuff and be flexible and bend and where I want to compromise and so on. But both of them, you know, I assume inspired by their faith in God and sort of having this North Star and this, they both had this real backbone that they would just bring forward. And it gave them so much courage to say the things that they felt they needed to say, because they're both, Ernesto and Rabbi, were just, you know, very, opinionated in a way that was so inspiring for me, and I think taught me to find my own voice as a young woman, because I'm talking about 10-15 years ago now. And then, you know, as I kind of grew through that, and so yeah, those are some of my favorite memories of working with both of them. And then of course the cherry on top to all of that was, at one point I had gotten married, and I told the two of them that I was expecting, and they, like, without hesitating, immediately were like, well, we're going to throw you a baby shower. And I don't know if there's really any other Muslim girl in the world that's had a baby shower thrown by a Jewish rabbi and a Christian minister, but I certainly am a lucky one. And so in fact, when on a cold January morning, my water broke in the middle of the night and I was in the hospital bed, my husband was with me, and I took out my phone and I messaged Rabbi and Ernesto to say I'm at the hospital, and you know, the baby is coming. And it occurred to me later that I in fact messaged them well before I contacted my dad or my sister. So that was how deep of a bond we were able to form, and you know, I look at both of them sincerely as friends.
Thank you. For those who don't know, Reverend Medina is with the Episcopal Diocese, and he was a board member of the Tri-Faith Initiative when they were one of the partners. I don't think he currently has a placement. Has he officially moved to retirement, or do you know Nuzhat? But
I know
he does.
He's in Colorado.
No, he's serving a congregation in Beatrice.
okay, great.
Yeah, I think he does want to retire in the next few years, but currently he serves a congregation in Beatrice.
Great. So for those who perhaps were not on some previous calls, we did speak to that the Episcopal Diocese has made a $500,000 commitment to the capital campaign of the Tri-Faith Center. And we are working actively with the diocese to explore ways to engage those congregations in our work and be innovative about what that might mean in our next chapter. So there was a question that came to me about where is Reverend Medina now? So there's a couple questions in the chat that I'll pose to you, Karim, to start with. In speaking about what are some of the, Andy Gordman is asking, she's a Tri-Faith board member representing Temple. Could you tell us about some of the goals for AMI in the next 3 to 5 years? And maybe one of my questions that you could weed in there in terms of financial viability, if you don't have membership, if you could kind of speak to the intersection of those questions.
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. Yeah, I mean, our goals, I think, is to continue to grow and serve our community and serve our, our mission and core values, right? So we still have to focus on how to build a strong community. I think defining what it means for the first and second generation of, being a Muslim in Omaha, Nebraska in 2020 and beyond, right? So I think we always kind of try to focus, what does that mean, right? And for our youth, for the other generations, I think there is always challenges, right? So we have to continue working on that. There is an educational piece. There is a piece of, when you come to the States and you establish yourself and you build your financial, and then you start kind of thinking about, what does it mean for me to spend the rest of my life in the U.S. right now? That going back or whatever, I think having a strong identity for our youth, right? We're focusing and the Imam and Nuzhat, we're always trying to think about programs. We Muslims have the same challenges as any other groups, right? When it comes to, and I'm talking a lot about youth because I think it's one of the most critical, I think, piece is we need to kind of bridge all the challenges, right? Some that come from just the regular social situation that we live in. Some come from, kind of the identity, specific identity. So we're focusing on that. With regard to, kind of the financial sustainability, I think that's an ongoing challenge and opportunity, right? So as the Muslim community continue to grow in Omaha, I think we have to engage more and more people in our activities, see the values, contribute, and hopefully they will see that contribution, what they add is going to a good cause. And I think we're seeing a lot of this, right? I think one of the, kind of the paradigm shift that's happening here is, if you look at any organization, there is the Pareto rule, the 80-20, right? 80% of your, financial or anything comes from 20% of your community. And we're trying to kind of reverse that to some degree, right? We're trying to say, you know what? We have some core families that helped us through the years. Now we need to give them a break to some degree and try to spread that to others. So we're working on that. That's one of the key financial things that we're trying to work on, and that's for the good of the community, right? AMI is a reflection of the money of the Muslim community here in Omaha and the metro. So those are the goals.
Could you speak to the purchase that you just recently made at Mercy?
Oh, yeah. Yes, yeah, that's one of the continuation. You know, I believe we're continuing to serve our community in different ways. So one of the things that we were missing was having a cemetery that belongs to the AMI, that will unfortunately satisfy the needs of the AMI community. So yes, I think with the help of the Imam and other board members, we, in the last, I think 90 days to 120 days, I believe, we made a purchase, and now we have our own cemetery, and that's awesome. So that's one of the things that we're super proud of, and we'll continue to work toward those goals.
Thank you. Imam Jamal, I wonder if you could tell us about kind of the culture of interfaith work and the intersection with the Muslim community in Omaha, regionally, in the United States or the world. I know that's a huge question, but kind of give us a sense of that. And maybe you could weave into that, Gail's question about whether or not there's how you handle the challenge of the number of languages that are spoken within the congregation.
Yeah, the good thing about the language question is that whoever is coming to the United States, she has to speak somehow kind of conversational English, which is the common language for within our center when I do my service and when I communicate with my brothers and sisters. The second common language that could be used is the Arabic one. We try our best to melt all the service within that common language, and I go through my service with the Arabic verses of the Quran, Arabic traditions of the Prophet. Then I interpret them right away in English, and all the discussion will be in English. So English is the common and the bridge kind of language between myself or between every other member in the community. Culture-wise, we have such a variable kind of culture that we can sense and feel during the Eid celebrations. We have two Eid or two main festival on our calendar. One of them is coming on July 31st. So the culture can be represented with the dishes they may provide, the dress they may do, and exchange of stories about how they handle and celebrate those festivals in their own countries. Neighbor to neighbor kind of program is another good example of how we can exchange and share our culture with the others. Within the Muslim community also, when we visit each other, we can see and sense and experience those kinds of differences of culture. And again, the differences are not like a main course. It is again something in decoration, something in language, something in dishes and food, in language, as I said, in the dress and so forth. So it's such a beautiful, especially on the day of Eid, when you come and see everybody is dressing from her own culture. Is such a beautiful combination of that one. Now, we have some kind of culture in the practice of religion, and this is where it is very important, where the Imam has to specify and analyze culture from religion. So in order to worship all together and practice the pure religion away from the cultural attachment, because that could be a sensitive part. Practicing religion as a culture could be a sensitive part, because it will come to a, we don't do that at home. We don't do that back home. We don't do that in my country. So that is another aspect of culture. But in general, that diverse kind of culture is so refreshing and so beautiful to learn about that, especially if we are open to learn and include and work together on that level.
So thank you. Specifically addressing the issue of the culture of AMI's congregation around being in relationship with the religious other, can you speak to your understanding of how Tri-Faith has contributed to that, and whether or not you see that as something that's happening in other places.
Oh, that's even a different level of conversation, because we are talking about the diversity within the Muslim community, you know, and work on decreasing that sensitivity of the culture. Now, talking about taking the Muslim community of AMI to the higher level, which is interacting with the Christian partners and Jewish partners, that is even another level that we go through. But in general, we bring it closer. We bring it closer in that challenge, if I want to call it, by addressing the reality of we all work outside with a different co-workers or different staff or different managers or different even employees, workers for me outside, and we get together very good. So why not we try to get together when we are as a religious community in our places of worship? Everybody has a good experience and good story about interacting with a Christian friend or a Jewish friend or different other faith or other denominations. And we built on that, you know, the way we interact outside, please come and join, and this is what we are doing. And this, as I said before, this is so much connected to the courage and openness that they may show in coming, joining, and experiencing this kind of unique experience with the Tri-Faith family. I start calling that Abraham Village, and I know Wendy is not much of favor of that because it's taking her Tri-Faith, you know, thingy away. But I start calling it's Abraham Village, you know, where really brothers, sisters, cousins are interacting with each other. So I try to bring it that much of symbol, bring it closer to their mind, giving them experiences from their own practices at school, for example. Not all the kids around your kids are Muslim. The teachers of your kids, they are not necessarily to be a Muslim. So the same way you interact with them that way, what is the problem of being part of our community and interacting with our neighbors this way? And it is interesting to learn how much they are interested and excited when they start the first and second experience of joining or attending a big Tri-Faith event on that level. And we are working on this, and we are doing some good progress. As Karim said, there is no mission accomplished on this one. It's an you know, continuous work until we leave this life. But I believe we are doing quite a bit of good development and achievement on that level.
Thank you. So we have about 5 minutes left. I'd like to remind those of you who are attending that I added a survey to get some feedback from all of you on today's session. And I have a few more questions. I don't want to end on this question, so let's just in a quick snippet from each of you, if you could tell us a bit about a challenge that you have overcome as part of this experience. Nuzhat, I know you alluded to this has not been all peace and love, but you know, there have been some bumps. So any that come to mind that have been particularly
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, if you subscribe to a faith, as I do to the Muslim faith, you know, I do recognize some questions that are difficult within my faith, but I wrestle with them in a way to sort of find reconciliation, not in a way to condemn my entire religion. That's not true of people I may be talking to. So as a board member of the Tri-Faith, plenty of times I have been invited to speak to a group. And sometimes people will bring up political questions, say about Palestine, about Israel, terms you use that are fraught with all kinds of meaning. Do you say Israeli occupation, or do you not say that? You know, do you say Zionism, or do you not say that, and so on. And so those are always, so to try to kind of separate those, to say we are not trying to solve political questions. We are focusing on building relationships so we can have dialogue and create understanding. So that's one example of just trying to navigate the political realm, which religion is often intertwined with. That has been one of the challenges. The other one that I will mention, and is there's times when, well, certainly I know what I know, but I don't know everything. And so I don't know what people are reading or thinking. So I was speaking to a group one time, and someone asked me, basically asserted that Islam's violence was proven because in Mongolia, the Mongols had been violent, and they were Muslim and so on. Well, I wasn't up on my history of Mongolia at the time I was giving that talk. And so I was caught flat-footed, like, well, I just didn't know what to say and how to talk through that. Because if you're trying to sort of be nasty and just prove some point, then, it was just very awkward and sort of left me emotionally upset. How do you deal with someone that may just start out not necessarily having the intention of learning and growing and understanding and probing? Not to say you can't or shouldn't ask difficult questions. Anyway, I did come home. I did read up about Mongolia. I did read up about Islam, and certainly Islam came to Mongolia, but it was well after Genghis Khan and some of the really violent characters in history. I don't know what that proves or doesn't prove, but it's just, so there certainly have been, moments where it's intellectually challenging, it's emotionally challenging, and it challenges your ability to communicate in a way, ensure that you continue to engage as a human in a rational way rather than the alternative.
Thank you. I think we'll lean on that as the answer to the challenges right now, because we're short on time. I would love, Karim and Imam Jamal, if you could end on, what do you hope that the legacy of this work will be? That a generation or decades from now, they look back on the work that you've done. What do you hope they look back on and see?
Karim? Unmute.
Thank you, Imam. I think very shortly, in a very short way, I think it's going to continue, right? I think we're going to continue to live together, to learn from each other. I think our legacy, hopefully, is that Omaha becomes a model for others. I think people, when they either drive through Omaha or to come to work in Omaha or live in Omaha, they will see this as a way of, how can I replicate this or even make it better wherever they live, right? In a different city in the US or Europe or Africa. So hopefully our legacy is to be a model and an inspiration to the others.
You know me, Wendy, I would say what I want to say. So I will go back quickly to the question of the challenge, because Karim said it. My main challenges right now, or challenge right now, is the concern about myself and few members of my community feeling the shift of the focus.
Greetings, friends. My sincere apologies for the abrupt ending to that session. I have brought back together Imam Jamal and Karim Khayati to be able to have a bit of more appropriate closure and let you hear the words that Imam was about to share. So Imam, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wendy. I was saying that I start having recently one main concern would like to work on and clear it and see how much we can modify it, which is I feel there is a shifting now in the focus of the tri-faith and the vision of the early founders of the tri-faith from the center, which is the God of Abraham that brought the three congregation and the three visionaries, if we can call them together. The shift is going to focus more on even non-Abrahamic faith. And at the time, I do believe in the interfaith movement and interfaith activities, but reminding the board and the executive director and the staff that the focus earlier, the founders were focusing on the Lord of Abraham. We have not exhausted yet to learn about each other fully and completely before we start looking to learn about, outside of these three faiths. And that is impacting me very negatively by when members of the AMI coming to, questioning what are we doing? Is AMI part of this? Is tri-faith now is moving from the three main faith into educating and focusing on the others? I can hardly, and about the AMI participation, the congregation participation, we have very limited numbers who are now joining the activities because it's not easy for them and it's something new. And I can hardly work on bringing them to the concept of the tri-faith. Now I have to answer questions about more than tri-faith. It is beyond tri-faith. Yes, the idea could be available for me, for you, for Karim, for some others. But still for my community, it is hurting my community. It's hurting my audience. It's hurting my own effort to bring people more to join me with the activity of the tri-faith. So that is my concern. It is not about we are restricted on the three, no. But we have really to build our base on the three, to learn about each other more and more and more. The focus has to be more on the three, and then we can move out, and include the others. I would like everyone in the temple and in the church to know so many details about Islam and vice versa. Before I learn about Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, although some of those names have a certain sensitivity to Muslims. In Myanmar now, Muslims all over the world are calling on the Buddhist leadership to stop the genocide in Myanmar. In India, the main Hindu country, persecuting Muslims day and night, and for almost more than a year now. So when these names comes into tri-faith, I become more under attack and target, like, okay, what is this, Imam? How would allow this to happen under your watch? It is not about under my watch. It's about, it's one of those world faith that somebody could learn about, but it's not my tri-faith yet. I need to keep tri-faith as a tri-faith right now. And when that tree becomes strong and big and solid, fine. We want to learn about others, it's fine. That is my concern, and that's my hope. Please, with all the open mind and open idea. Actually, I came from interfaith experience into tri-faith. So I am not, I know exactly how to interact and what to say and what to talk, and how I interact really with the Buddhists and Hindus and Sikh that were very active in Augusta, and I was in that group. But right now I'm in a group in tri-faith. What attracted me to this is a tri-faith, that I believe the three of them really belong to Abraham and to the Lord of Abraham. Let's focus on this and try to strengthen our community. And definitely on the long term, we would be opening it up to learn about others from the angle of learning, which is fine. But the focus right now, I see, I personally, Imam Jamal, see from my experience and what I hear the feedback, I would wish and love that focus be solely to great extent on tri-faith. Full stop.
Karim, do you want to add or reflect on that, or any other closing thoughts? You're muted.
Of course. So no, thanks, Wendy, for the question. I think, yeah. I mean, there is some aspect that I think, you know, and this is what I refer to as the continuous journey, right? So as we transform, as we continue to grow and branch out, I think to what degree do we focus on our core competencies, and how do we exhaust everything or not? I think this is a question for the leadership, for the board, for the executive team. You know, those are things that I believe will be solved. I mean, I think the ratio of, you know, how much focus on, you know, kind of the groundwork, the tri-faith work, the kind of versus the other. I think there will be always a balance, and for us, I think the challenge is how to keep that balance in a pragmatic way that will serve all the needs, right? I think there is a balance to be found there, and I'm very optimistic. I think we have the right conversations today, but those are things that we will solve. You know, I really, Wendy, as a closing thought, and I want to always be positive. I want to be always optimistic. All of these things will be solved, right? I think I invite everybody who's listening or will listen one day to any of us, right? This work is difficult, is inherently difficult. It's not binary. I come from a very binary professional background, right? I'm a technologist by trade. And the good thing that tri-faith and work with the AMI that brought me is working with people, understanding that this is a very nuanced work. There is a lot of shade. It's not zero or ones. The difficulty is getting to know and solve these things, because at the end of the day, you're trying to move the needle forward, working with people and not just, so I believe that's, and I'm super excited about, you know, the opportunities ahead of us. So that's my kind of closing thought.
Thank you. Thank you both. A special thanks to Nuzhat as well for her contributions today. To realize that as all of us have said, this work is important work of our time. There are not, I loved the reference to zeros and ones. There are not necessarily clear answers. And in the coming decade, we will understand what it means to live into this next chapter of the Tri-Faith Initiative. So with much gratitude to all of you for participating. Thank you for your patience with our technology challenges. And thank you to the two of you for joining me to be able to have some closure and be able to give some space for appreciating that there are many voices as part of this initiative, and that us actively listening to each other is our path forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Karim. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.